welcome back to Chat Speaks, and this is part two of my conversation with George and Ian. I hope y'all watched part one. It's very enlightening, very interesting. They're bringing some good information, some good ideas. But if this is your first time, my name is Chas, and I speak on things relating to politics, culture, motivation, and faith. And I have George and Ian here, and we're talking about how to be successful in America coming from a different culture. So, George, you and I talked about this once before. And we kind of touched base on it a lot on part one. But have you experienced a lot of racism here?
I'm going to say no, straight up no. I would say what I've experienced more is discrimination, but I wouldn't call that racism. And the reason is because it actually came from Black people, right? So, I mean, I'm not about to call a Black person racist, no matter what they tell me. And it had to do with where I came from. And I can guarantee you at least 90% of people who come from Black people who come from abroad, went to college here, are probably going to tell you the same thing or similar things, right? When we went to school. First of all, I was caught off guard to notice that, I lived on campus for my first semester. And it was always odd to me to see that it was actually the Black people separating themselves. Or at least that's the impression that I had, right? That's what I saw. So it was the Black people separating themselves from everybody else. Whereas it was actually the white people reaching out to me. They were curious about where I was coming from. As Ian mentioned in part one, they were curious. Sure, they might have said something, that sounded stupid because they didn't know. They were just ignorant. But they were genuinely curious about where I came from. They were interested. So they were more inclusive. Whereas, the Black people who lived in the same dorms as me, they would separate themselves. And the only time I remember they would actually approach me was to ask me why I'm always hanging out with white people. They didn't understand that these guys pretty much included me. I mean, I moved to this country, it was January, right? So it was the spring semester. So everybody had met each other in the fall semester of the previous year. So they knew each other. So I was the new guy. And everybody would call me, hey, come sit with us. Where you're from, what language you speak, and all those, those questions that made me feel, okay, they're accepting me. Whereas on the other side, they would always get on me about the fact that I hung out with white people. And to me, as a foreigner, I didn't think about the fact that I should not be hanging out with white people. I was just this new guy who graduated from high school and happened to be in America and just meeting new people. I didn't think that it was that big of a deal who you hang out with because of the color of your skin. Of course, the way I dressed was an issue, to again, Black people. I call that discrimination. And they had issues with the fact that, I would dress, I guess normal. To me, it wasn't just normal dressing, but to them it was just weird. Like, why do you dress this way? Like, people would literally almost cuss at me for the way I dress. I'm like, what's your problem? I mean, that's what I like. That's how I dress. And so to me, it was weird. And that's because I did not understand America yet. I was barely, I was probably 19. So I did not understand all those things that had happened in the past, all those things that people, carry with them that their parents pass on to them. So they come to college and they try to keep that same tradition. That to me is not constructive at all, right? So as far as racism, I have not experienced it in a way that is commonly known. Mm-hmm. I've experienced discrimination, and it came from Black people for the most part. And from white people, I mean, I'm sorry, but I can't think of one instance that I can actually say a white person has been racist to me or even discriminatory to towards me. So I can't think of one.
So I have a question for you, George. So you say back in where you're from, you really don't have a lot of white people there. Mm-hmm. So when you came over here to America, were you curious about white people? Like, were you just as curious about that culture as they were about yours, or was it just like, hey, they're nice to me?
So, I would say that I was quite familiar with the culture because of television, right? I knew what I saw on TV. I saw, the culture. I thought it was cool. I mean, even black culture, right? I could actually see it because, you get to see movies, you get to see music videos. So you know what black culture is. You find it really cool. Even like the so-called gangster culture. To you, it's just this cool thing that you want to be part of. I mean, I remember my little brother and his friends, they lived in Chicago. They actually used to drive to the West Side just to go hang out with the gangsters. And they would come and tell me, oh, we had like bullet casings on the ground. I'm like, you guys don't want to go. You don't understand. This is not a movie. This is real life. So to us, when we come here, we come with somewhat of an innocent mind, right? I mean, I'm sure you are familiar with the fact that a lot of African Americans believe that Africans look down on them, don't like them, and all that stuff. And I keep telling people that it's not that we look down, or it's not like we don't like you. We actually come here admire. We want to be you. We want to be just like you. I mean, you are the coolest thing. That's what we want to be. But at
Really?
the same time, when you come here, reality hits you. You realize that what you saw on TV as cool is actually not always cool because it can actually get deadly, right?
Yeah,
Especially as a foreigner who's got a visa that tells you better not get in trouble, you get deported. You do whatever it takes to stay out of trouble. And that means staying away from trouble, right? So those things that you thought were cool, you want to hang out with this person doing this fishy thing on the side. No, you stay away from that. And that's how, I mean, for me, for instance, I never really got to hang out with my community when I first moved here. As I mentioned, I was working all the time. I was busy all the time. So most of the people that I knew were actually people from work. I learned to speak English working at McDonald's on campus, working for hours and hours at McDonald's. So I never really got to do what the typical black foreigner or African, even any foreigner would do, right? You hang out with your community. Those are the people that you hang out with that you grew up with. I never got a chance to do that. But most people, once they realize that life in America, as much as there are opportunities, is not a game, right? You think about your visa, you don't want to get in trouble, you don't want to get deported. So you do whatever it takes to stay out of trouble. Once you connect with your people, the ones who have been here for a while, got to tell you how the game is. They tell you where to go, where not to go, who to hang out with, when to not be out. So they pretty much tell you those things that kind of makes you separate yourself with the people that have been here, that are from here. And now you have these groups of people that look alike. You have the African American, or the Grenadian, but they don't mix, they don't hang out. And because you're going to see the African or the foreigner come in and he's hungry, he's looking for opportunity. He doesn't care about that whole racism thing. He's just going for it. And you have the African American who thinks about the fact that, the white person is always after me. There is no opportunity. But they see you pushing no matter what it takes. And they see you growing. And they start building this animosity between groups. People start making up these things in their mind. I mean, don't get me wrong. People are going to say things, right? You're going to have this guy, the African guy is going to say something, there are, something bad about African American culture, which a lot of time has to do with staying out of trouble. You're going to have people creating all these scenarios in their heads to create a conflict between groups, not understanding that it's not so much that the foreigner doesn't like you. It's just that the foreigner does whatever it takes to stay out of trouble, to succeed, right? When on the other side, you have somebody who was raised knowing that no matter what they do, they're going to remain on their knees, that there is no opportunity for them, it's not even worth trying. So when they see this guy who comes in, who's not interested in talking about white people trying to keep him on their knees, he's not interested in talking about struggling. All he's interested in is just pushing, and living, grabbing all this gold laying on the ground. So you now have these conflicting ideas, conflicting ways of thinking. And now you have people thinking that, this person looked down on me, they don't like us, they think that they're less than us. It's not even so much that. I mean, we don't sit around thinking about the African American. No, we sit around hustling. Okay, where's the next opportunity? How can I take advantage of this thing that's there for the African American, but for some magical reason, he doesn't seem to see it.
that's a good point that you said that when y'all come here, that y'all are looking at, y'all come with like a blank slate. Like y'all not worried about racism. Y'all not worried about white people. Y'all are just worried about, I want to make life better because I
Right.
where I come from, and I know I'm not going to get this opportunity. I can't mess it. Versus someone that's here,
Right.
that's like, well, I can't make it anyway. So then it's like here in well, when I was in school, the some of the girls were like, oh, you think that because I couldn't get it, I didn't do the stuff that they were doing, and I read books, and they thought I talked white, and so they thought, oh, you're better than me. You think you're better than us because I was studying. I was like I don't want to do what y'all are doing because they were doing some pretty bad stuff, but because they thought that that was where they were supposed to be. They thought that I should go back over there with them. And when I didn't want to join them in the bad stuff that they were doing and talk the way that they talked, because they said, oh, you're different. You think that you're better than us. And they ostracized me. But I was still like, that's not who I am. But that's a good point where
And
someone who comes in with saying I can
right,
versus someone who's here that says I can't.
right. And if I can add to that, when you think about it, one of the biggest tragedies for me, I'm sure all of you saw that this past summer. It was the Smithsonian, the Black Museum. I forget they came up with this list of what whiteness, what what whiteness consists of. I don't know, Ian, if you had a chance to go over that article. I mean, to me, to this day, I have a hard time believing that it's a black person who put that list together,
Black
and I
women.
have a hard time believing that people actually reviewed this thing and allowed it to be published. I mean, you want to talk about racism? I really have a hard time believing that black people read that thing.
One interjection I want to say, that whole museum is based on falsehood anyhow.
Yeah, to
When he
start.
talks about racism in America, he does not include the Democrat Party. That is 99% of racism in America. So,
Right.
it's all falsehood.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. To start with, I guess
Some
you gotta
true
make
things
sense.
happened. Some true things, yeah, but the premise is just like I'll always say, is a Truman Show. Anyone seen the movie The Truman
Yeah,
Show? That's what's going on with that whole race thing. That because they want to remove the Democrat Party, they create this fantasy.
hmm
Yeah. So, but anyway, I interrupted because I was thinking about the article myself too
yeah. No, no,
earlier.
go ahead. I just wanted to mention that because
Uh-huh.
it very much ties into what I was talking about. The fact that you have a different mindset. The black person who was born and raised here, versus the person who comes from abroad. Because where we come from, no matter how hard you work, you're not going to make it. And you are surrounded by black people only. So who are you going to blame? I mean, you can blame some people. In my instance, I can blame tribe on it. I can blame the fact that some people are just greedy. But there is not that white person that I can put it on. Sure, we can talk about all colonial powers, right? The fact that even though the countries are independent, they still have a stronghold on them. But at the end of the day, as I always tell people, when the white man gave independence to African countries, and he decided that he was still going to get 90% of the profit, he never forbade anybody from using that 10% left to build the country. So you can blame France in my instance, right? France who was over Cameroon. You can blame France all you want for the currency, for the way they extract the natural resources, but whatever they leave, you don't have to keep it in, just among 5 families. You can build your country whatever is left. So don't give me that excuse that France is keeping us on our knees. I can see money. I know there is money. We all know that. But for some reason, amongst ourselves, we don't build each other up. We don't build things around us. So when we come here, we have, we can see that if I work, I get rewarded. Whereas the person who was born and raised here, he is of the mindset that no matter how hard I work, there's no opportunity for me. That's the difference, right? And plus, you have the laws here. You have the law. I mean, I come from what I would call Cameroon a lawless place. I'm going to say it's a lawless place. Here, you actually have anti-racism laws. You have laws that require an employer to pay you what you work for. I mean, try go to Africa and try that over there. I mean, for real. Sometimes I tell people I have to travel more. For real,
Or,
people
or,
really.
or the Caribbean. Imagine trying to tell someone in the Caribbean who has a business by law how much they should pay someone else. You're going to be out of office soon.
Yeah,
So, and where both of y'all are from, there's no such thing as a minimum wage.
no,
What
no.
about welfare?
I
You
mean,
know, in Grenada, the 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 prime minister went to Howard, the new prime minister, and so he's trying to do a little bit of the American things there, but it's not a developed concept. He just started something like a social security. This is about 5 years ago. He started it, but that concept is not Grenadian. But because he was educated in America, got his PhD in America, so he's trying a little bit to bring them in, but it's not a native concept. It's a very American and European concept.
So, how do people from where y'all are from gain wealth without coming to America?
Well, that's a difficult thing. A lot of people all over the Caribbean, for example, what we call remittances is the number one source of income for lots of people, which is people who come to America, Canada, England, send money back home.
Uh,
It's called remittances. And that is sometimes in some of the islands, that's the number one GDP part of the GDP. So that plays a part. But getting wealth in the Caribbean a lot of times mean two things: get into business in like a critical business, like food or clothing, housing, or building, or owning lands and selling lands to other people, or get into government. That's the fastest way to be in government.
Yeah.
So it's not like well, the Democrats here use government just the same way. As I said to one friend of mine, the government here, the Democrats here, rival some of the oligarchies in Ukraine and Russia
Yes.
because people don't even understand how corrupt that party is. So that's a path here too, but it's not the usual normal over the water part of the path to wealth. But in the Caribbean, definitely.
really? What about where you're from, George? How do you gain wealth?
Very, very similar. I would say being part of the government, except that there is that element of tribalism that I mentioned earlier, which plays quite a bit. But in Cameroon, for instance, I mean, there are different tribes. I guess the most populous tribe is known for being the one kind of well off, good at finance, good at economics, good with money. Kind of like in Nigeria, right? You hear about the Igbos. It is the same in Cameroon. And what has happened is that people from that tribe, because they were not always treated well, figured ways to use their wealth to get favors from people in government, right? So you have the government that, for instance, has been controlled by the same person for the past 38 years. And of course, he's made sure to put people from his area, around him. But as I mentioned, people who actually managed to make money, and that's back in the days that was through agriculture, through businesses, through banking system, like underground banking system that they created amongst themselves. So that's how they made money. So business, I mean, entrepreneurship is the number one thing in Cameroon. That's the one way that people get by. People that make money, they are big industry. I mean, they get into major industries like heavy industries, or they get into government, right? And once they get a little bit of money, they figure a way to use that money to gain, to win contracts from government people, and that's how you build wealth and you just grow and grow and grow. So yeah, entrepreneurship is the one way to do it. In government, there is a lot of money that goes around, so that's another way. But heavy industry is usually the way. But to get to that level, you have to have that person in government that kind of allows you, to gain, to win those contracts and make
You have to do like a pay for play. You have to like grease
pretty
it.
much, pretty much. Oh yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. So, just a few quick more questions. So, Ian, we know your path, like with the Democratic Party and how you're pro-Trump all the way. George, when you first came over here, were you politically active, or did that happen after you had children and
No,
you started?
as far as being active, I guess I'm not even sure that I would consider myself active as much as I talk.
You
But
post a lot.
I've always been interested in politics, and that stems from when I was a kid. I got to grow up with adults around me. My dad, he actually raised his cousins, so I always had much older people around me, and they were always watching the news. So from the time I was 4, I was sitting in front of the news. I was always interested in what was going on around the world. I remember the first Gulf War, with the green screen and flashes all over the place, trying to understand what was happening. My brother decided that I'm the U.S. and me, I would say, okay, I'm going to be Iraq, not knowing that, how that was going to go. So, and just watching all those things. So, and also the religious aspect, because I was raised, my parents always made sure that we were in church, right? So there was also my interest in religion, which once you start digging into religion, there is no way you're not eventually going to get into politics, into economics and everything. Because to me, they're all linked, right? I went to missionary schools when I was in Cameroon. So moving to the West, I took that mindset with me, which was very conservative. And just kind of watching people around me and also just being busy trying to make it happen for myself, going to church. So it was always natural for me to be more conservative and just being surrounded by people that had bigger ties with the Republican Party. And I would say though, as much as I am all in for Republicans, I would say that my biggest discourse has also been with them. I used to not care at all about the Democrats. To me, they were just kind of lunatics. I'm like, you know what? Those guys are just kind of hopeless. So I'm not even going to worry about them. I'm going to worry about making sure that the Republican Party is doing things the right way. For instance, in 2008, I was all about Ron Paul. He's Rand Paul's dad. So I am an extreme constitutionalist. I'm extreme. I'm all about a constitution. The way, to me, that's, besides the Bible, that's the perfect document. It's all about how we apply it, right? Just kind of the Bible says whatever it says, but then you have the pastor who's going to come out and come with those tradition of men, right? And try to modify the way the word of God is. So to me, it was always about fixing the Republican Party. I was against Bush's wars, just because coming from abroad, I had a different perspective of what war was, right? The American people, you were under attack in 2001. We know what happened. So it was easy for anybody to kind of use that as an opportunity to do whatever they wanted, right? They were going to use the fact that you were attacked to pretty much just go ballistic and push that jingoism and just kind of attack just about anybody they wanted using that excuse. Me coming from abroad, having been surrounded, by people from different culture, and I have to stress this. So I left Cameroon when I was, I think, 14, and I actually spent 3 years in France before moving here. So I finished high school in France before moving to the US for college. So I got to see Western culture. I got to see diversity, not only of countries, skin tones, skin color and all that stuff. So I got to hang out with people from all over the place. So to me, as I mentioned, it was all about making sure that the Republican Party actually stood by its values. And I made sure to study that party. Ian did study the Democrat Party. Me, I studied the Republican Party. And unlike what people think, to me, the Republican Party was always traditionally against war, right? Unlike what a lot of people think today, they were against war. First, maybe one of the reasons is because war is just expensive, right? Like, who wants to pay all that money, especially when you're not clear about the reasons? So my activism really had to do a lot more with the Republican Party. I remember back in the days, the Glenn Becks of the world used to call people like me terrorists because we supported Ron Paul. And Ron Paul was extremely against war because he just knew that war always had other motives than what was presented to the people, right? So that's when I was really active. You would see me in the streets in Kansas. Back then I lived in Kansas. I was very active. And then, after 2008, I was just apathetic about politics. Barack Obama won it. I was just like, you know what? You guys do whatever you want with it. It's yours. But until Trump actually showed up, and he showed me that somebody can actually go toe-to-toe with the media, unlike what Ron Paul did. Trump actually spoke the language that was missing to me to Ron Paul, because Ron Paul was really good at what he talked about, but he didn't have that fighter spirit in him, right? So a lot of time I see in Donald Trump, a Ron Paul just has more energy and who is willing to go toe-to-toe with whoever opposes him. And that's one reason I'm 1,000%, pro-Trump. So that's my little story there.
So who were y'all, Ian? Who were you? I can't remember if you told me this. I mean, Trump was running. Well, that whole list of people. Who were you going for? Was Trump?
I was always a Cruz guy.
Oh yeah.
I was for Cruz even before Cruz decided he was going to run. I was saying, Cruz, run, run, run. And I have never ever gotten involved in a political campaign until Cruz's. I was there, a volunteer, and I was pissed at the Donald for beating up on my guy because I had my eye.
We call him Lion Ted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had my eye fixed on Cruz. But then once Donald won, there was no way I was going to support Hillary.
Oh, okay.
So for me, it was like, Donald, all right, But then I started listening to him because I didn't listen to him before.
Yeah, me
I was
neither.
listening to Cruz, Then I started listening to Donald, and I thought, no, this guy's fine. And where I was half-heartedly for him last time, I think I'm even more for percentage than you. I'm like 4,000% for him this time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
I am like, it's like I begrudgingly voted for him because there's no way in heck I was gonna vote for Hillary, and so I really was like, okay, whatever, and I just let things go. I really didn't start really paying attention back. I didn't really start paying attention again until maybe like a year ago, and then really started paying attention when the COVID hit, and I started seeing, okay, this may be a little bit political, and then with the impeachment, and I was like, okay, why are they trying to impeach him? Why are they trying? And then I started hearing about all these prophets who have started prophesying, like in 2010, that Trump was God's man, and Kim Clement saying that they were going to say impeach, but he said nay, and I'm like, okay, maybe I need to start paying a little bit more attention to who this Donald Trump is and how he was uncovering stuff and how many sex rings were being exposed. And in Ohio, like I think 101, 50 kids just got.
Well, he had an arrest yesterday also.
Yeah.
45 kids, women were unshackled from whatever the sex ring they had them in.
Right.
Yeah.
They
Now,
arrested 70 people.
this is totally beside the point, but did you see the latest story with Hunter having a Pornhub account?
Yeah.
Well, I saw
Huh?
I saw them.
You saw it?
I saw
Hey,
the game.
you're holding out on me, man. Send it over.
Over to you. It was part of my investigative work. I needed to.
Well, I want to do a little investigation also, so please send it over.
I'm not interested. I'm good.
It's interesting. It's
because I only saw the description and I thought this couldn't be.
What, like with the foot stuff and all that kind of stuff?
Well, no, I saw that one. No, he has a Pornhub account.
Okay, well, I haven't seen that.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen that one. But today it came out that he has an actual Pornhub account.
Wow.
And put up himself.
Oh, of himself?
Wow.
With him, yeah, he's the stud in the acting with about 3 or 4 women.
Wow.
And one of them is supposedly a relative of his.
Oh gosh.
So that only came out today, and I was busy. I just saw the headline and I perused it, and
I guess Giuliani was right when he said that we haven't seen nothing yet.
I mean, you see how Kennedy treated him on her show? She told me an apology, and if you don't come and if I've been the mayor of New York and this and that, and you're telling me I'm like this. Who was the guy she was comparing him to? Some guy that wrote a book about Trump and ended up having a.
I didn't see the whole thing. I just saw the headline as usual because I'm busy.
Yeah,
but I know I saw that Trish, whatever her name was.
Yeah, and so he went off on her. I mean, I'm surprised they played the full interview because he went off on her. But I'm excited. I've even seen a whole bunch of Trump rallies.
But I want you to think of something that I've been thinking about. The Democrat Party is a diabolically clever party.
Oh, yeah.
everyone in the party knows the level of corruption that Joe Biden is in.
Mhm.
Why did they still let him get the nomination? Did they know that they want? Because I've always been saying who they want to be president is Miss Harris,
Kamala, yeah.
not Joe.
Mhm.
Are they part of making sure this stuff? Why would he gets out?
Well,
Because I'm. Go ahead.
well, I think that we are giving them too much credit because I don't. I think that we think they're maybe smarter than who they are. Um, because I think
Well,
they,
maybe not the Bidens, but the Democrats,
yeah,
because
but then
because remember, Joe Biden. I'm not so worried about the laptop as Democrats and CNN try to sidestep you with. The his business partner
Yep.
came forward with his Blackberries and his cell phones, saying Joe was involved in the China deal, selling us out to China. So I'm wondering that if they're hoping to build him up and then kick him out
Pretty
and
much.
let Kamala become president, like it's a plot they had all along. Because the
well,
Democrat Party is diabolical.
last week they showed some documents that Kamala is tied into all of this stuff
Yeah,
too.
yes,
So
I saw that too.
both of them. I mean, they and then on the Tucker Carlson had on a recording saying the guy was telling the guy Bolshevik or whatever his name was that. So you're just going to bury us all. I honestly think that they didn't expect this to happen. I don't think that they. I don't think that they are 4D chess players. I don't
That
think.
was my first thought. I'm not talking about the Bidens. I'm talking about whoever runs,
Right.
because who runs the Democrat Party right now is not Biden. It's Obama.
Right, but I don't think that they ever thought that Hunter would leave those laptops at that place. And then the FBI had it for almost a year before they even said it.
April last year,
Yeah.
April of last year. And remember, the reason why I'm saying that is when they wanted to take Biden out last year, they published the Washington Post published all his racist letters because they were planning to take him out, and there were like 20 stories of how corrupt Biden is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So everybody knew
No,
without.
I'm
I'm
telling you,
telling you,
right? People that
the
I
story. Mhm.
people that I talk to, they're like, those letters don't exist. Like George has seen some of the people in my post who were like, we
No,
never seen this. This
I'm
doesn't.
not talking about that. I'm talking about Democrats were writing articles last year
Mm.
about
I was
how corrupt.
trying to get him out, trying to get him out.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
they were writing articles. Well, the letters that I told you about, the Washington Post published them when they were trying to take Biden out, where he was talking with one of the founders of the Dixiecrat Party
Mhm.
to how to get around the segregation rulings.
Right.
But I'm not even talking about that alone. There's article after article after article in 2019 on how corrupt Joe Biden is.
Yeah, even before that. I mean,
Yeah.
like,
So, but I'm saying there was a body of articles. So they knew since last year he was
Yep.
corrupt. This is
Right.
why I'm wondering if they're punking us. You have to always think
It could be.
behind the
well, it could
behind the
be.
screen.
And they also think that Obama was going to carry him across the finish line because of but Harris already said that Joe is her running mate. No,
Yeah.
no, Joe
Joe
Biden
said
said
so.
that he
Joe
He
is
said
said
that
so.
himself.
running mate. So with the Democrats, you just never know what they're up to. But
Right.
I think that we think that they're smarter than they are. But I definitely think, God forbid, if Joe Biden was to win, that he's like, "Zip," and then somehow Hillary Clinton's gonna be in there, or um, Pelosi's gonna fit her way
Oh
into
God, that would be a
in there.
nightmare.
That's why it's so important to vote. If y'all are
Well. Let's just keep
go
praying
vote.
that the
That's a
president
nightmare
gets another
scenario.
term.
Right, Ian,
Hillary Clinton vice president. Oh,
so
Kamala.
So before we go, both of y'all, one at a time, if people haven't decided to vote, give your reason why they should vote for Trump. Ian, you go first.
Well, it depends on the person, because the black female and a lot of black male critical mass don't want to vote for Trump. And I say the party that goes around saying it's the party against hate is running on one thing this year: hate Trump, hate Republicans, because everyone I ask, what do you like about Biden? Nobody says they like anything about Biden. So they're running on hate. If you're a Christian, drop hate. Don't vote for somebody because you hate somebody else. That's not a virtue. So that's my first thing we want to look at. The second thing you want to look at is, if you're not black and you're white and you're looking at Trump's record, it's a record. I mean, it's a record. Look at the peace deals in the Middle East that he pulled off, that people were saying could never be done. The economy, before we had the coronavirus, the economy was gangbusters. When you look at the judges here in the Ninth Circuit where I live, that my friend here used to like to call commie rulers, Chastity. The Ninth Circuit was ruling after ruling against the people. The people who make we had Prop 187, whatever proposition, they'll come out against us. Trump has completely changed the judiciary over here, the Supreme Court, everything. Freedom, getting rid of regulations, making sure businesses can function. He funded the historically black colleges. He did prison reform, and you have black prisoner after black prisoner thanking Trump. Just Google black prisoner thanking Trump for removing him from prison. And there are a host of other things that he's done and has a stellar record, and for that, 110% support for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
George?
Ian pretty much said it all. I mean, he laid it all there, and yeah, I mean, I totally agree with everything he just mentioned. In addition to that, as he mentioned, he's got a record. And to me, Trump actually does whatever he says he's going to do. So his campaign promises, we can literally go line by line. Sure, some of them, I heard a liberal today say, oh, but he hasn't arrested Hillary. He hasn't finished the border. I say, that's not how you're going to sway me. That's not how you're going to get me to go Democrat. Forget it. Because I've seen, we tend to forget that for 4 years, 3 solid years at least, he had the entire planet against him. He get impeached. Despite all that, he managed to address every single item in the list that he campaigned with. I tell people that they don't realize that we had a coup d'etat in the United States. We had a coup. People are used when people hear a coup, they think about little rebellious, the rebellion in the street, like with Kalashnikovs, shooting people, chopping heads. No, a coup is literally just overthrowing a government. We witnessed a failed coup in the United States. Despite everything that was happening, the media, 92% of all media being against him, despite the education system managing to convince all young people to hate the guy, he managed to literally address every single item in that list. So I keep telling black people, this is the guy this is the big brother you want. This is the bully you want on your side. Because if he's on your side, he's going to make things happen for you. So you better support this guy. Because whatever your claim is, whatever your fight is, you're going to have this guy who is willing to go to battle for you. So to me, it makes sense. And plus, if you truly believe that you've been oppressed your entire life, guess what? The people that you say have been oppressing you are the very same people you've been witnessing for 4 solid years, oppressing this guy. And for once, I would say, embrace that idea of the enemy of my enemy, is my friend, right? So if your enemy is this system that has been oppressing you as you believe, just watch the way they've been treating him. Trump is probably he's the guy who's the closest guy to the experience being Black American, the way a Black American would describe being Black American. Think about it. He's literally been oppressed. Everybody's seen it. for 4 solid years, nonstop, from his own cabinets with leaking information from the 17 intelligence agencies that Hillary Clinton used to throw out there, to literally even his I think his cousin came out with some funny book
His
about
niece.
their dad. I mean, think about it. Despite all that, this guy is working for the people. So I would say, in addition to what Ian mentioned, Trump does whatever he says he's going to do. He may not lay out a plan, a clear plan. Oh, what's your economic plan? But we know that whenever he says he's going to make it happen, he may not tell you right on the spot how he's going to make it happen, but you know he's going to go brainstorm and come up with something that works. We've seen it. We've all witnessed it. We know that this guy has this magic wand that he knows how to use. So I would say, go support this guy. Come to him with your claim the way Ice Cube did. And guess what? He came up with some solutions. I mean, think about it right now. We have somebody who's already guaranteed us that he's going to spend $500 billion to make things happen for Black America. I mean, just for that, I'm gonna come up with a business that's going to help the community, just so I can also be part of that. I mean, think about it, people. He's told us that $500 billion. So we're not even talking about speculating, or maybe no. He's giving you a number.
And he
So
will
just right. So in addition to that, I'm gonna say the guy is anti-war. I mean, we've never seen it. A U.S. president not start a new war. That is, in recent ages, we haven't seen it. And he's the first one doing it. He's the one he's been nominated, what, 4 Nobel Peace Prize? Sure, he didn't win any of them, but who cares? I mean, Obama had it. We know what he did to Libya. We know what he did to Syria. We know what had happened to Yemen. So who cares about Nobel Peace Prize?
And what he did to Cote d'Ivoire.
Exactly. Oh my God, that's actually that's emotional right there. I mean,
know. You see, Bagbo now is coming out.
Yeah.
I've been following it from the beginning. So just so you know.
Yeah. See. So I mean, just for those reasons, I'm like, to me, Trump is a no-brainer. We may not like his attitude, but who cares? His attitude doesn't affect the price of rice. It doesn't affect the price of gas. I don't care. We saw Obama with a beautiful smile. We were paying $4 to $5 per gallon for gas. At least people not in Texas. We saw that beautiful smile meant nothing. He was partying in the White House with all these celebrities. It meant nothing to us, to we regular people. Whereas Trump, show me a politician that you've seen work as much as this guy. I mean, right now he's flying around, city to city sharp for his campaign, but at the same time he's doing work. And the guy is always working. I've never seen it. I have never seen anything like this. So,
as you mentioned that, I was coming on a plane from Grenada, and I was sitting next to a guy who is an attorney in London, but he does international deals. And he said he was working on a deal with Trump, which never got consummated because they pulled in another set of attorneys. And he said he visited Trump Towers. And he said the only thing, this is Trump's first year when I'm still thinking about him. And he said Trump had about 10 different projects going on. And he had different teams of people, each one handling a project. And he was there in the middle, and he had a hand on each project. And he knew exactly what was going on and making the deals happen with the 10 projects. And it helped me to understand Trump a little better. That's his skill. Because this is someone who saw him up front. And he's a British guy. Mm-hmm. And he saw him up front. He's an attorney, so we started talking attorney talk. And he got to Trump because he had just gotten elected. And he said, this guy can handle, he says, the only thing I tell you about him, he can handle 25 things at the same time and handle all of them well.
Yeah.
And Trump has made that plain to me as I watch him.
Exactly.
What you were saying, he does several things. He's campaigning, and then you hear the next day, there's a peace deal going on. So
and then
he's able to do it. You're right.
Justice. Yeah. I'm like, where does he get all this energy?
Exactly. I mean, we can see it. To me, it's just, as you mentioned, it's just the hatred that people have in their heart right now. And to me, this is so painful. And it's so sad to see that people are so focused on getting rid of this guy that they don't even pay attention to Joe Biden. I mean, you have literally a racist, a Dixiecrat. I mean, somebody he cannot even help it. No matter how hard he tries, he can't help but throw something racist out. But people are so focused, and thanks to the media, of course, on taking this guy out. Somebody is willing to put aside his business and work for America. I mean, we talk about somebody that I grew up watching who's always been about America first. But you have people so hate filled that they focus on him and they don't even know the devil they are about to put into office. I mean, the devil who passed two crime bills, one in the 80s, one in the 90s, and then the VP is the very person who made the best use of those bills. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. This is like a scenario written by Hollywood. The guy passed a bad bill, and it takes as a VP the very lady who used the bad bill. I mean, and people are campaigning for them. The very people who suffered under them are the ones battling to get them into the highest office. I mean, come on, people. So come on, man. As Joe Biden would
Come
say.
on, man. I think it's Stockholm syndrome, but thank you two for being on. This was it was an eye-opening conversation to me about what y'all experienced versus what y'all experienced over here. It's very interesting because I've been in America all my life. I mean, like I've traveled a little bit abroad, but never been to I went shopping, and all that kind of stuff, but I never was like with the culture, like understood like the different tribalism in Africa, or what was really going on in the Caribbean, and how I believe that I'm blessed to be here, to be in America, to have been born here, to live here, to have the opportunities here. I love my country. I know that that's not something popular to say, but I wouldn't want to be in any other country. I do love the Caribbean. I love the blue water. But for me, there's no place like home like the USA. So I really want to have y'all on, especially after the election, to like give a rundown of what a victory prayerfully. And for y'all watching, just be in prayer. Be in prayer for our nation. Be in prayer for our president. Be in prayer for us, because I know after the election, they're saying that they're already starting to get the army and all that kind of stuff up, because they plan on burning stuff and tearing stuff down, mainly in the Democratic state.
Of course, that's where they're allowed to do that. So
And don't forget the Senate. I gave you that list.
Yes. A lot of times we look at federal, but we also need to be praying for our senators, for local,
yeah,
and federal governments.
right.
And so just be in prayer. Be in prayer for our nation, because our nation, it seems like the world is turning upside down. And don't just be in prayer for America. I get notes from I got one from Loch Ness, which is Sweden.
That's Scotland, no?
That's in Britain, in Great Britain.
Scotland.
Yeah, so I get notes from all over. So, and it seems like the world is burning all over. Be in prayer for France. They're burning over there.
Yeah, that's a whole other issue right over there too.
Yeah. I mean, people, especially with that COVID, we need to remind people that COVID is a worldwide thing. It's not just a U.S. thing. When they say that, because of Trump COVID, I said, no, it's still China. I mean, as of today, France is on lockdown for the next 3 months.
Germany went into lockdown today.
There you go. So we're actually privileged to be able to do what we're doing. And over there, when they say lockdown, they mean it. I have my family that lives there. I have my big brother and big sister. You have to be home. If you don't have groceries, that's your problem. You are home. There is no middle ground over there. So
they give you 1 hour a day to go out in France.
I thought it was 2.
I think it's 1. It could be 2, but
we'll see.
2 in Australia. I think
this time around we'll see.
Yeah, no, I was watching France 24. They said 1 hour. 1 hour.
Good, at least that.
Yeah, well, where Ian is, they have to eat and then put their mask on for Thanksgiving dinner.
California.
Well, the thing is, I eat right here, so it doesn't matter.
California, you guys are competing with New York. For some reason, you're trying to beat New York at being the worst.
Right. So for y'all watching, just be in prayer. Be in prayer for the U.S. Be in prayer for just all around the world, because the devil is busy and he don't just work in the United States. He works everywhere. He has his minions working everywhere. But we're just going to cover it with the blood of Jesus. We're going to pray for this election that God's will be done. And we know that God's will is that no more innocent babies are killed, that we stand with Israel, that we stand with the righteousness of God, that we stand for family, for faith, for values. And so that's what we're just going to stand on. We're not going to speak negative. We're going to speak life, because the Bible says death and life is in the power of our words. So we're going to start just speaking life. And the people who are watching us been cursing America or cursing where you are, stop it. Start speaking life over your situation, over your city, over your country, over your state, because your word is very powerful. This world was created with our words, and we have more authority than we know. The same power that rose Christ from the dead resides in us, and we need to remember that. We are not defeated. The devil is defeated. That we are not, so we are more than conquerors, that we have the power, not Satan, not these governors, not anyone else. It's us, it's the church. So we need to stand, and we need to start declaring what God's word says over our lives, over our family, over everything else. And so I just want to leave this with, remember to share, like, subscribe, and God bless you, God bless your family, and God bless America.
All
right. Take care now. Have a good night.
You guys have a
And
good
nice
night.
to meet you, George.
Yeah, same here.
All right.